Absorbing damage is the name of your game. From the claws of monsters.
Alrighty, welcome to Nikos RPG. I'm Jonathan Albin, your host, and today's show is about fun. Are we having fun yet? That's 5 words that everybody asks all the time, and I find it fascinating that the phrase actually has a reverse connotation. In other words, a person says this when they are not having fun, and they are asking, why are we doing this? Are we having fun yet? Because I don't feel it. And today we're going to talk about the things that might be stealing the fun out of your game sessions. And we're going to do it in reverse. I'm going to talk about the things that could be in your games group to make your games more enjoyable, but might be missing. And so take this sort of as a checklist of ways to make your game sessions better. And the first one, flat out, is effervescence and enthusiasm. When we are getting together to have fun, it should be an enthusiastic, it should be a pumping up, it should be a exhilarating experience. And sometimes, especially if we've been running week over week over week in a military combat slog kind of a world, it tends to become flat, becomes less exciting. Now, in the case of the world of Nikos, we've just entered World War I, and wars are generally not a fun thing. But there is something about being in charge and being in control of the military and being able to enact change that makes the game really exciting. And when you come into your sessions, if you come in with that level of energy that makes the game just thrive and become vibrant, it really helps to drive the story. If every week you don't, if you come in and you're humdrum or you're low energy or whatever, you can actually kill your campaign. I've had people who had a great story going, even the players admit the story was fun, but the energy level at the game session was flat, or perhaps there was something going on dynamically that was causing challenges between the players. And so you really have to try to figure out what that is. And I have to get my fidget toy, because otherwise I sit and move my hands erratically during the session, so apologize for that. Now, one thing to talk about when you talk about the effervescence or enthusiasm of the game, you could pump this up artificially, and you could bring an energy level to the session that's not really the way you are. And unfortunately, human beings are empathic enough or empathetic enough to be able to pick up on those kinds of situations. So make sure that you're generally driving up your energy levels. Maybe have upbeat items that occur in the game that allow for this, or maybe create scenarios that generate wonder and surprise, and therefore helps the players build their energy levels. But it's really important to stay excited and thrilled about what you're doing. One of the challenges somebody said to me is, you record so often and you're not seeing the kind of response you would like. Is that because you're not bringing enough to the table? And I said, no, I think my problem is I probably bring too much to the table, but we'll deal with that in a later episode, I'm sure. Another element of interest that you might be not covering in your game is you might be using monsters and mechanisms that allow your players to get to know what the story is before they even engage them, and they've already calculated the mathematics and the statistics on what they're going to have to do to accomplish things, and there's no mystery, there's no curiosity or possibly even anything that would drive interest for your game session. So try to find ways to make your outcome more of a challenge, more surprising and mysterious, because when you create this level of puzzle for the players' minds to chew on, it gives them something that actually drives the chemical in our brain that gives us drive to continue really has a lot to do with how much of what we are doing is already been accomplished. And so make sure you leave some level of mystery or curiosity so that your players will be driven into it. I think for many cases, the real established difference is that a world that is in a games environment where the information is public domain and easily accessible, players tend to short circuit their own fun in the game by looking up and determining the information in advance through alternate means, and therefore have taken away from the wonder of it. One of the ways I avoided that was by creating a monster names list that doesn't match other properties, so therefore they have to investigate. They need to discover to figure out what works and what doesn't. And while there is a certain amount of lore and data that they can collect from, a library or a book or interaction with other individuals, nonetheless, you need to keep back some portion of the story so that they have something to dig into, because that is really one of the elements of role play that is highly appealing, the sense of wonder. In order to keep your game exciting and enjoyable and thrilling for others, you might want to consider figuring out how to improve or increase the amount of inspirational or uplifting scenes that are in your experience. In other words, when they have successfully defeated a monster, provide them with the opportunity to rejoice in what they've done and to see the outcome in a self-defining way so that they can be appreciative of what they've done. There should be highs and lows in a game session, or not necessarily session by session, but over the duration of your seasons. There needs to be some way for the players to experience both the highs and the lows emotionally, and one of the ways to do that is to provide them with a mechanism that gives them the ability to inspire others or perhaps be inspired by others. Of course, there needs to be some level of threat, some concept of the importance of what the players are doing. And one of the ways to do that is to create a system that gives them very deliberate objectives and the resources to accomplish them so that they can reach for the potential and therefore focus their activity in the game. Since there are so many people who play role-play games for the escapism, it's important to remember that the ability of the individual to do needs to be tied to what is in the game so that they can actually feel that intention, that desire to accomplish. Of course, we're supposed to be having fun, right? So not every session can be deep dish. Not every pardon me. Not every conflict has to be dire and serious. You can have a little bit of irreverence and whimsy. One of the elements of this, of course, is in the types of monstrosities and creatures that they engage with. And so realize that it's perfectly acceptable to have a down day or an off story element that allows the players to feel this sense of, again, wonder, but also of humor, to see that things aren't as serious. Naming your creatures can be a fun way to do this. For example, the names of NPCs that are perhaps surprising or unexpected can itself play into that, and utilize the verbal mechanics of humor, such as alliteration or irony, in developing the story so that the players can feel this sense of irreverence and that it's just a little bit silly, so that you take the edge off of those episodes that are particularly deep or intentional. And in today's world, if your game is not accommodating and inclusive, you're in trouble. And I'm not speaking in this term with any kind of leverage on that term of inclusion. What I'm saying is you want everybody that can play to play. And so you have to make sure that you're setting your scenario, your resources, the materials, the location are as optimal for your maximum player base in order to get the kind of players and the type of volume of players you want to accomplish. In my case, I generally have a full table between 6 and 8 players, and sometimes I've had as many as 17. And even on, in my worst cases, I have 2 or 3. But the idea is you make the session accessible, make it possible for them to achieve getting to you and being a part of it. You end up with a much larger group, and the more people you have, the more fun you can have, because there are more people that are going to have various entrants into the story at any given time that are humorous or irreverent or serious. It allows for a wider variety of possible triggers for having fun. When we talk about it, too, we have to really realize that we're talking about putting together a story that is not predictable. If every week you're going to fight a monster and you're going to destroy him, and by the 3rd hour of your game, that routine and simplicity can cause challenges, because your players just simply will lose interest, because there's nothing that can surprise, cause wonder, cause inspiration. There's nothing there, and therefore you want instead for your games to be rather unforeseen and unexpected. The players should always have to be on their toes about what's going on in the session, and thereby being enticing and appealing, and getting the players to put their effort into being a part of your action. And by being unforeseen and unexpected, you give them that element of surprise that also adds to the curiosity and interest that they might have. What it comes down to is this. What it comes down to is this. Your game sessions need to encompass all possibilities. Doesn't mean that every week you're able to accomplish all of them, but if you have a judicious use of the macabre and the mysterious, the serious and silly, the challenging and enjoyable, you give the players the opportunity to experience the entire panoply of the experiences that a life would have, and therefore the persona, the character that they are portraying, becomes more real for them. The enjoyment of the game increases, and all in all, you end up with players who want to come back week over week, month after month. I have some players that have been playing at my table for 12, 13 years, and it's an odd experience when you look at the amount of turnover that is in the average role play group. Usually a group will stay together for 3 to 6, maybe even 10 months. But to have a session go 2 years, let alone 12, you're doing something right. There's something in what you're doing that people are going to want. So I want to thank you for your time being here today. I'm Jonathan Albin. This is Nikos RPG. We are here Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. and 11 p.m. Pacific time. See you in the next episode.